Welcome back to the IndyCar Podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And we are your two favourite Brits covering IndyCar. And if we aren't, you're only lying to yourself. Or you have a different opinion to us, I suppose.
Those opinions are wrong, but, let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. Opinions are always opinions until they're opinions about us being the best, which in every case, if you disagree with that opinion, you're wrong.
Yes.
Okay, podcast today. So it's been quiet on the news front and still working on those interviews, I think, coming up in coming weeks. And, obviously in podcasts, it goes in there. And we didn't have time, I think, to kind of watch a historic race and maybe do like a race reaction to that, which we'll try and do a few of those in this kind of postseason on the podcasts. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different. What happens if you type IndyCar into Google? Or we were kind of going to type in like questions like a does IndyCar and how does IndyCar into Google and see what questions come up, and we're going to answer them for you. I guess this is kind of like a beginner's guide for IndyCar because I don't think there's many in-depth questions. So I guess the extension to this would be if you see a question and you want to add in the comments a question that you would like us to answer or give our best attempt to answer in IndyCar. Just IndyCar related questions, IndyCar. I'm going to say a phrase that has become kind of almost traditional on our F1 Fantasy channel, on the F1 Fanatics channel, which is screen recording starts now. It's just easy for me in editing and I'm an idiot. So, Stephen, we're going to type in how does IndyCar in here. And what's the first question?
How does IndyCar work? Cars go quick.
Yes. Yeah, that was the simple answer. Cars go quick. Any expansion to that?
Yes. You can find a really interesting video all about how does IndyCar work on the Indy Fanatics YouTube channel.
Wow.
Link in the description.
IndyCar explained.
I mean, we could be here for 5 hours explaining how IndyCar works. It's a racing series. Shall I go down to the next specific question?
Highlight. How does IndyCar qualifying work?
Yes. How does IndyCar qualifying work? Well, similar to, I'll break it down. There's a separate qualifying format for road and street circuits, and there's one for ovals, short ovals, super speedways, whatever. For road and street circuits, it's similar to F1, where you have Q1, which is split into two groups of about 12 cars each, depending on the size of the grid. They will then fight out. The fastest 6 from each group will progress to Group 2, which is the fast 12. Sometimes on some tracks, that is the second and final qualifying session. But then from that one, normally it's then the fastest 6 times set in that session will then proceed to Q3, which is the fast 6. And that's the final shootout for pole. Bam! That's basically how it works on road and street courses. On ovals, for majority of them, it's you get one session. You go out, do a couple warm-up laps, and then you have 3 laps to set the highest average speed. And then that basically just decides the grid. For the 500, it's slightly different. The fast 12, fast 9. Fast 9, the fastest times out of the big group, fastest 9, will go into a final shootout for pole. And then anyone, depending on the size of the grid, last year there were 3 entries. No, there were 6 entries, weren't there?
Yep.
And it has to be cut down to 3. So basically the slowest...
6.
Slowest, yeah, is basically a shootout for the last back row of the grid. So it kind of depends how many entries there are. Last year there were 6 going for the back row of the grid. It could be 4, it could be 7, it could be 10, whatever. depending on how many entries there are.
Absolutely.
That's how it roughly works in a nutshell.
Bree, how does IndyCar points work? Well, in IndyCar, it's fun. It's a kind of idea that's kind of muted in other series of should they kind of make every position fought for? IndyCar do that because on every position finishing the race, you will score points. So, if you win, you will secure 50 points. If you come second, 40. So there's a 10-point gap, so quite a big kind of difference for winning it. Third, you get 35 points, and then fourth is 32. And then from 4th to 10th, it's a 2-point deduction every time. So 5th is 30, 6th is 28, so on and so forth. When you get to 11 to 20, it is then taking away 1 point per position. I believe that should be like 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 from there. When we all the way down to kind of actually a 25 point, look, we should have looked this up before. I believe we get to the 20, which then gets to the bottom 5 positions, usually in the grid. Everything below, it goes down all the way to 5 points. When it gets to 5 points, every position below that are competing in the race score 5 points as well. But there are bonus points to be scored as well. If you lead any lap at any point during the race, you will get 1 bonus point. If you lead the most laps, you will get 2 bonus points. And you also get a bonus point for for securing pole position the day before or on the day, depending on how it is working for that particular race weekend. Indy 500 still at the moment has special rules. It had been at some stage the season finale as well, but it's gone to just the Indy 500 at this stage. Points, that point system is doubled. But also in that video where we said IndyCar explained, there is a more extensive look at how the point system works, but that is a very brief overview of how the point systems work.
Everyone gets points!
Yay! So every position matters. Unless I guess you're in those last ones, then I guess it's just 5 points.
Totally awkward.
Yeah.
On to the next one. How does IndyCar compare to F1? There's another fantastic video on a YouTube channel called Indy Fanatics where we look at F1 compared to IndyCar.
We just use this video to kind of go, how can we promote other content? Look at another video. Wow, what a lazy video we're doing today. Check out that one. I can't be bothered to tell you.
F1's a little bit quicker, but IndyCar's a little bit more racy. So there we go. In a nutshell.
Job done. Wow. We are really giving the detailed answers today. A little bit quicker.
It's another big one that is more. We've done more in-depth videos in there, but I'll cover how does IndyCar push-to-pass system work. It's the next one on the list, which basically they have 200 seconds of a
Technically, it's whatever the predetermined amount is for that race circuit.
Whatever the predetermined amount the race circuit set. Around 100 to 200 seconds. It basically works that if they want to go a bit quicker, they press this button, a big jet engine pops up from the back of their car, and they go flying forward. And then when they let go of the button, the jet engine folds up like a transformer into the back of the car. They carry on as normal.
I now really want that to actually be the case. I just kind of was getting kind of Mario Kart vibes. Like when you change into the giant bullet and just kind of charge. That is push to pass. You become the giant angry bullet. Wow. Joseph Newgarden really is making up a lot of places on his push to pass.
Everyone gets flipped over when he goes first.
Yeah, no, we should really make it a thing that you can use your push to pass and get normal push to pass use when. So we're now improving push to pass. Go for that. You get normal push to pass, but if you get to the final 10 laps and you haven't used any of your push to pass, then you get to use mega push to pass.
Ah, yes. Yeah. You become the bullet.
Yeah.
Excellent. Alternatively, some people say push to pass. Wait. It basically just improves the engine performance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an increase in horsepower. I don't know what the difference is. Probably similar to a roundabout DRS, probably about 12 mile per hour or something like that.
Yeah.
Different.
That's what some people say. It could be true, or they could turn into giant bullets. Unconfirmed. You can use 20 seconds at a time. There you go. Somewhere between 100 and 200 seconds. It's like a small speed boost to help you overtake.
Yeah, and I think the good thing about push to pass is it is totally driver dependent. Obviously, they will be advised by their strategy team on the wall in terms of maybe time to use it. But yeah, it's completely driver management. They can use it to defend. They can use it to attack. And, if they use up too much early in the race, then they can be caught out napping their thing. And if you store it up, and you feel like you're going to be worse on your tyre stint, maybe not on the right compound going later into the race, you can have that push to pass to kind of manage that tyre differential of maybe someone on fresher tyres at the end of the race chasing you down by using your push to pass to help you defend in key sectors of the track. Not on ovals. It used to be, I believe, on ovals. But yeah, the push to pass is not on ovals, and I think the main upgrade in oval power will be when the hybrid engine's coming in 2023.
There we go.
I'm going to go for this one because we pre-discussed some questions go from there, and Stephen's completely stuffed
Whoa,
it.
no, but look, it's snuck in there. That's a what does IndyCar stand for?
Yeah.
How did it get into the how does IndyCar searches?
I mean, it is unbelievable.
That's how much is searched for. Google's snuck it into another search result.
It's crazy. Everyone wants to know what IndyCar stands for. Well, IndyCar is technically a nickname that came up in the USAC days because the most popular race still today, the biggest race on the calendar, is the Indianapolis 500, the one with obviously over 100 years of history to it. The cars were nicknamed Indy for Indianapolis car. And it kind of stuck and was first adopted by CART in the 90s, becoming the PPG IndyCar series. Then there was a dispute between IRL and CART who could use the rights to go IndyCar. IRL won that battle, but it was kind of IRL IndyCar from 2003. And then when the reunification happened in 2008, this is where it's become the IndyCar series and is the name that I imagine will probably stay forever. Unless there's other complicated splits down the line. Please, no more splits. You don't need any more drama, IndyCar. Let's just stick it simple. Right, Stephen.
How does IndyCar make money? They
go to the local casino, They put it all on red, and they see whether they have enough budget left to go for the season.
Yeah, and that's how teams can come into the series and teams leave the series. Carlin went all on red and
gamble responsibly, kids.
Okay. They make money basically any motorsport series. Sponsorship deals, companies go, I want my name on that car. And I'll pay money for it. Prize money from winning the championship and winning individual races. And then there's also, I'm sure, prize money for pole positions and whatnot. Yeah, basically that. Sponsorship and competition prize money.
Yep. As in most sports, to be fair.
Yeah.
How much does IndyCar drivers make? Well, can't really give an exact figure here because it's going to be dependent on those drivers, their deals with their sponsors. It will very much be on an individual basis. Even though someone may be in a smaller team and not winning as much races, they might have a huge sponsorship deal with someone who pay them a lot of money to compete and work with the team to go on their salary. And obviously it varies on those. If you win a lot of races in a season, then you're going to make that. I think the Indy 500 purse is somewhere between 5 to 6 million currently. I think its current one. I think its highest was around about the early 2010s, and I believe that purse was about 13 million for winning the race. So that's a big one. Obviously, that doesn't go all to the driver. But yes, that was a kind of rumour for there. So how much does an IndyCar driver make? Not as much as NASCAR and Formula One drivers, but still competitive.
Depends on the driver. Some of them, I'm sure, do make equal amounts to
okay, let's say top talents.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
The top band of drivers will earn less in IndyCar than the top band of drivers in NASCAR and F1, but that is mainly due to the sponsors and money involved in both those series, as opposed to IndyCar, which is still improving, but getting back, recovering from the utter mess that the second split was.
Yes. How much does IndyCar cost is our final how does IndyCar question. Again, can't really give exact figures, but I think we've spoken about it several times. The top teams is about 10 million per car entry. So that's the car itself and the team to support that. And then for the smaller teams, it's more towards your 2 to 4 million for low budget teams.
Yeah, and there's everywhere kind of, suppose, in between. Yeah. And there might be some cars that are the top end 10 million budget and some cars within it that are slightly smaller budget.
Yeah. Some teams
sponsor attached to that car.
Yeah, some teams do a part-time season. Sometimes a lot of teams do full-time season. So yeah. Varies a lot, but roughly between those figures.
So now we're going to take the how out of and see what does IndyCar, also the workout. Let's see what comes out of that. So, does IndyCar race in the rain? Yes, but only on street and road courses. They just have a 1 compound wet tyre that they switch to when it is raining, as opposed to the 2 compound dry weather tyres, which is the sticker reds and the harder compound, primary compound that they run, the primaries and the alternatives. But on ovals, it is not safe to race in the rain, so they will usually have a backup day ready if the weather is kind of looking iffy. But yes, IndyCar will not race in the rain on ovals.
There we go. Does IndyCar have blue flags? Yes and no, depending on the situation. On a whole, yes. If a car is on the lead lap, so it hasn't been lapped yet, then they have no obligation to give up their position to the lead car coming to lap them. If they're quick enough and they can stay ahead, that's perfectly fair for them to fight to stay on the lead lap, because if there's a caution, then they come right back into it. But obviously, if they fall back off the lead lap, then it gets a bit more complicated for them. So they are allowed to stay competitive, fighting for position if they're on the lead lap. But if they have been lapped, it's like, come on now, your race is done. Don't get in the way of someone else's fight. That's when blue flags are more enforced.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously examples from that this season. Laguna Seca with Felix Rosenqvist, obviously holding up Colton Herta and Alex Palou just because he was fighting for the lead lap. And even though it had a sizable impact on their race, not the end result, he was allowed to. He didn't have to give up the position.
Does IndyCar only race on ovals? Currently, no. There are 3 disciplines, obviously we've mentioned throughout this video, that IndyCar race on. That is road courses, which are kind of fixed permanent tracks, street courses, which are temporary tracks, usually within city centres, and ovals. But those ovals are broken down into super speedways like the Texas Motor Speedway and Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Those are the super speedways classified within IndyCar. And then short ovals like Iowa returning for the next season, Gateway, and obviously there have been other short ovals in the past, but those will be the 2 that will be featured on the 2022 calendar. So the ones you need to be concerned about. And obviously Texas and Indianapolis for 2022 as well, because Indianapolis ain't going anywhere. At the start of the IRL, it was IndyCar only calendar, and at times I believe during the USACs, oval. Sorry, what did I say?
IndyCar only.
IndyCar only racing. IndyCar only racing. Oval only racing. At times in USAC, I believe, and also under the American Automobile Association, early years of IndyCar, I believe the calendar has been only oval racing in the past. But in its current stature, 3 disciplines: road, street, and ovals.
Does IndyCar have power steering? No, it's very physical for the drivers to turn their car. Turn their car.
Wow, what a demonstration. We've got it all for you today. Live demos of what it's actually like to drive an IndyCar.
Who was the one that came across that said there was a quote? It was a lot more physically demanding to drive the car.
Well, would have been a Marcus Ericsson and Alexander Rossi.
I think it was an Ericsson. Basically, it's a lot more physically demanding to actually control the car, unlike in something like F1 that does have the power steering.
Yeah, I think IndyCar drivers compared to like F1 drivers have to do a lot more upper body physical work because, they are a real handful to handle. And I think Nico Hülkenberg recently described it as a beast to drive through, because obviously lots of technical corners on the road and street courses as well, and fighting the car through the high speeds on an oval is mega effort on the power or lack of power steering front. Does IndyCar have DRS? Obviously, we explained the push to pass on the previous How Does. And does IndyCar race today? No.
Oh.
Because we are in the close season, sadly. Can it race today? Please, IndyCar. Just go somewhere and race. Non-championship round. Let's do it for fun. Does IndyCar race at COTA? Well, it did in 2019. It was won by Colton Herta, and I believe it is the only time that IndyCar have raced at it. It was due to be on the calendar for the 2020 season, but that little annoying thing called COVID-19 came along and mucked everybody's plans up. And in 2021, it wasn't on the calendar, and it is not on the calendar for 2022. And I don't believe there are any plans for a foreseeable future. I don't know if it is on something to do with costing for COTA to do with it, and also maybe a fact of publicity PR wise, because whenever you race at a track that F1 goes to, there are going to be comparisons of going, well, F1 are quicker here, type of thing, and then they'll start going, oh look, it's barely quicker than an F2 car or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Obviously, you can check out the Does IndyCar Need a New Chassis for an interesting debate on that one there. Sorry, I just thought I'd plug in another video because that's what we do here. But yeah, does IndyCar race in Canada or in Europe? Stephen, do you want to kind of explain that situation?
It races in Canada, hasn't the last couple of years, but has the Toronto street race, but due to COVID, hasn't been there the last couple of years. Makes its return next year.
Mm-hmm.
It has a street race there. It doesn't go to the one F1 goes to.
Montreal.
The name that escapes it. Montreal.
Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve.
But yeah, it races in Canada. Does IndyCar race in Europe? No. Sad.
Sad for us.
It has been to Japan. It has been to Australia. It has been to Brazil. And it has been to Mexico.
And it has been to Europe.
Yes.
It had...
When did it go to Europe?
Well, CART came over here in the early 2000s. Brands Hatch and Monza were unsuccessfully tried, I believe, 70s, early 70s, around about that time. Go from there. We've covered it in a History of IndyCar, I think, video before. But I think mainly the costs of going abroad, as F1 knows, hosting a series that goes around the globe is pretty damn expensive for teams to kind of have to manage because of all the logistics of traveling places and kind of flight costs and stuff. So keeping everything internal in the continent of North America keeps the cost down for teams, which is one of IndyCar's key things that it likes to do. But we obviously would like it, I think, to expand a little bit. Unlikely, I would say, Europe. I think a lot of people would like Surfers Paradise, Australia. That may be possible on like a rotating basis. That one's been rumoured, I think, for a while to be maybe negotiations to return if possible. But I would say Central America and Mexico to capitalise on the Pato market. South America and maybe Japan as well would be more logistically viable places to visit
To be fair,
than Europe.
If they go to Brazil again and they go to Japan, Australia, they're only one continent short of a world championship. Pretty crazy, wouldn't that be?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Actually.
But yeah, I think that's all what Google tells us about IndyCar.
I think so. We'll just have a fun one and see if anything fun comes up. If we just go IndyCar. IndyCar live timings. There aren't any. IndyCar 2021. It's over. IndyCar standings. Polo won. IndyCar schedule. It's happened. IndyCar 2022. That's IndyCar next year. IndyCar results. Polo won the championship and Elio won the Indy 500. IndyCar point system, we've explained that. IndyCar versus F1, we've done a video on that. IndyCar calendar, it's out. I thought that was a good way to end it. Just a quick fire round. It's like one of our interviews. You know, we just ended it with quick fire questions because we had some more in-depth, chat, fat things in. That's it for today's IndyCar podcast. We hope you enjoyed. And if you enjoy our IndyCar content as we go through all the way through the close season content with you, we'll be coming back with another Outside the Tub episode, which is our discussions and debate series on Friday. But yeah, other than that, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. And if you're new around here, what can they do, Steve?
They can like, subscribe, and dig that one.
Dig it! And Stephen's used all his breath. He has a breath limiter.
That's push to pass.
Was that your push to pass? I thought you were near the end of your push to pass time, so you had to push out the words. Bye, guys. It's time to end this nonsense as usual. Hope you've enjoyed. As always, drop us for kind of recommendations of things you'd like us to do, but we'll keep trying to come up with fun and entertaining ways to get you through this long IndyCar post-season. So for now, you Indy fans, keep racing!